Hello you guys, and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah, and today it is pretty much our last day of school, at least kind of our last day with our normal students. They have 8th grade graduation tonight in about an hour or so, and I just kind of got ready for it a little bit and am very excited, but also definitely kind of feeling the bittersweet side of things. Purposely, I got myself a little bit more presentable, but I'm not wearing mascara intentionally because, I don't know, I feel like I might cry, I might not be, but it wouldn't take very much to probably be set off. I actually had a student earlier, just a casual like saying goodbye, not, you know, as in like goodbye, I'm not gonna see you again, but just saying goodbye, and for some reason that made me emotional. A couple kids have written letters, which also makes me emotional, so I definitely get very sappy at this time of year. You know, it's pretty interesting just kind of being caught up in the whirlwind and all of a sudden then it's done. I don't know if other teachers can relate to that. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. And I know it's definitely how I felt in the past, especially last year as well, but definitely this year too, since I'm, you know, back in schools where I have new students every year, it does have more of a sudden but final kind of ending, even though I'm not moving out of the area, so I may still see students in the future, but it definitely gives me a lot to reflect about and kind of thinking of what comes next after this year and, you know, just the approach for things. So I'm very grateful with how the year ended up going. I know I had done a few like classroom type vlogs earlier in the year and then didn't do as many this past semester, partially just, you know, trying to balance my master's and publishing the cookbook and some of those things in addition to regular school. But with that, I think that things definitely got much better. I know earlier on, especially, I was really trying to figure out what my direction was, and I have taken a lot of time to reflect about that and already have a lot of good ideas in place for next year to really help with things. I think also too, a lot of it comes down to trying to really make that solid first impression and start things off in a really positive way. I am going to be changing a little bit my teaching style, and I'm definitely going to try to be a lot more strict up front and just be really clear about my expectations, because I think I've learned a lot about communication this year and also just, you know, the whole psychology of it. It makes perfect sense that everyone's trying to kind of size each other up first few days, maybe even weeks of a school year, and figure out kind of what the approach will be. And, you know, if as a teacher you let certain behaviors slide early on or are not able to catch those things, then they can definitely become a problem, or even worse, like a habit that keeps happening. And it's much tougher, as I've learned firsthand this year, it's much tougher to fix those problems or deal with them as they arise. I think I definitely did increase like my classroom management discipline as the year progressed, but at the start I definitely did not have a very good structure. So because of that, my classroom was a little bit more out of control than some of the other classes in the grade level. Just the funny thing how the same kid acts different in 2 different places. So I learned a lot about that. I really enjoyed building relationships with students and hope to do that even earlier on. I didn't really do a great job with that at the start of last year, so obviously as time goes on you feel closer to your students, and that's how I feel here at the end, but I wish I had done a bit more of that earlier, so that's definitely something that's on my mind as well. And then from the other perspective, trying to do more in the classroom to really help push students above and beyond and help them really kind of personalize their experience to, you know, best prepare them for the future. I didn't really do as much differentiation for my top level students, my strongest students, so having opportunities for them to really push them to new heights and to just kind of create a really good culture of hard work and, you know, motivating students to achieve. So those are just a few of my reflections at this point, but I'm definitely very eager. Tonight we have the ceremony. I am curious to see if I'll really get to say any final words to students, sort of like a goodbye. I'm definitely the over sentimental type, and I did write the kids letters earlier, which I think I talked about in a past video, but I don't remember. So I was able to personally, like in each handwritten letter, tell what these students meant to me and wish them luck in their future. So I was able to do that, and I also put together a little end of the year video. So you might be like, okay, that's enough. But I don't know, there's at least a couple students I'd love to talk to tonight and just give them kind of a final word of encouragement, I guess, or just let them know again how I feel. I don't know, maybe that's excessive, but I was hoping that there'd be kind of like a formal line where you get to like shake everyone's hands or something, but it sounds like that's not really the case here, so we'll see. I mean, hopefully I'll get to talk to some students afterward a little bit at least, but it's a pretty crazy feeling, and I definitely know summer is even more on the horizon. There were still some administrative tasks we were doing today outside of just regular teaching. And then we're also prepping for Step Up Day, which is happening tomorrow. The 7th grade students will be visiting the 8th grade teachers. It's not necessarily divided up by team, so some students will visit the teachers on the other team, but for the most part, it's a great way to help get them started thinking about 8th grade year. And it gives me a chance to kind of have a first impression. And so I've definitely put a lot of prep into it just because I really value that first impression. In tomorrow's vlog, I'll show a little bit more about the activities that we're doing for Step Up Day, but I am looking forward to it. As far as some tasks I've been working on, I did put together a schedule for myself. It probably looks a little jumbled, but I did organize it by day. So each day, a couple key tasks to do in my classroom. My hope is that by the time I leave here on the last day of school, I'm in really good shape. So for the first time, I don't have to have as much of an intense uphill battle at the start of the year just trying to get materials ready. Just because I always think it's not really going to be as big of an issue, but it always just takes so much time. There's a lot of late nights right before the start of the year. I want to try to avoid that. So with this Step Up Day in mind, I definitely want to make sure my classroom's in a good state. I've taken a lot of stuff down. There's still a lot of work to do in that sense, but I'd rather have it be kind of a blank slate in here rather than have outdated rules and procedures that are going to be changed for next year. So really focusing on keeping it very simple approach, and it's going to be a busy day. I'm packing a lot into the classes, but I really want to give them a sense of, you know, what I hope the rigor to be of the 8th grade curriculum. So that's kind of the plan, but I'm going to get some work done and I'll check in with you guys a little bit later. Hello again. I wanted to touch base again with you guys since the graduation finished up, and technically I am filming this a couple days after. I meant to film a clip right after the graduation, like that same night, but it just didn't happen, and here we are. But ultimately the graduation ceremony went really well. It was, I mean, pretty smooth like we had practiced, and afterwards I did get to have a chance to say goodbye to kids and just wish them the best. A lot of our team students kind of left very quickly. I know I was sticking around just because like parking was crazy for people trying to leave, so I stuck around for about 40 minutes after the ceremony with some other teachers from the other 8th grade team, and I think there were maybe about 10% of the students that stuck around were our team and like 90% were the other team. I was more so like stepping out of photos that the other team had, but it ultimately was very positive. And then on Friday, the next day, we had Step Up Day. I was a little nervous. I know it's not ideal getting home at like 9:15 and then the next day having like it be sort of like a first day of school kind of a thing, but I loved it. Honestly, it just felt so good. It was a kind of, I really appreciated the fresh start, and if you've watched other videos on this channel, you'll know that one of the biggest lessons I learned this year was exactly how important it is to be really stern and very clear with communication at the beginning of the year to set a really good foundation. I was fortunate in my first 3 years of teaching, I didn't really have to deal with classroom management issues at all, so I didn't have any skills in the area pretty much. And then I realized that void very quickly when it felt like certain things were falling apart at the start of this past year. And they definitely got better, but it never got to the place where I'd like it to be. Going through that and being reminded literally like every day how important it is to set those ground rules, I was very clear and firm about setting those, and even just from the first day when the kids were there. And it was just such a positive feeling. I was much more stern at the beginning than I had been the past year, but at the same time, even though I was being more stern, I actually felt like more of my personality was showing and I was actually able to have even more fun. So it's just really interesting. Of course, I had built really good relationships with students this past year, but it felt so good. Like it was one of my favorite days of the year. And that's kind of sad, I guess, that it took, you know, getting to have a taste of next year's group to do that. And it has nothing to do with the students themselves, just kind of like how setting the stage is so important. So I think ultimately that day on Friday has made me even more excited for next year. Of course, don't get me wrong, I'm still excited for summer too, but I feel really good about things. And I think this past year I really kind of got a thick skin. I feel like I'm a lot more assertive and stronger now as a teacher, and I have a much better sense of what I want to do going forward. So I really think there's a lot of positive things coming up, and just I love the chance to do that. And we did a lot of like taste of 8th grade activities. We did, I got a geopower program, which I am planning on putting on TPT. I was hoping to have it there already, but it's one of my programs that I'm most proud of creating. Just have a couple more like technical things to work out before the product is available, but we did an intro activity for that. We also did some intro Spanish activities, kind of review the verb tenses and things that they learned in 7th grade Spanish, so they're ready for next year. We did a chronology review game where they were trying to organize different US history events that they learned in 7th grade, just because again we'll be building on those next year. So it was a lot of fun. I had planned too much, which is often something I do, but I just feel really excited about what's to come. And we didn't really do as much like community building kind of thing yet, but it's tough because those aren't going to be my actual classes of students, and I'm not going to start building the community and then, you know, have half the class be completely different from the other team. But I feel really happy about it. So that's kind of a quick update. The end of the year is upon us. We've got a couple days left of school, but for the 8th grade teachers, we actually don't have students. So I'm not exactly sure what that means, if that means we've got time to kind of clean out the room and do more of those things, or if there will be other meetings or tasks that are assigned. I don't know, but I just wanted to touch base, finish up the video related to the 8th grade graduation, and tell you guys a bit about Step Up Day. Have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.